Hello, BookTube, and welcome to day 10 of Litmas. This is the seasonal celebration of all things literary that was created by Adrian at Stripcover Lit, in which every day we follow his prompts. And today's prompt is your favorite nonfiction writer, which is brutal for me. If I thought short stories were brutal, this is much more so. I read far more nonfiction than fiction, and I always have. So I have a lot of favorites in a lot of different kinds of nonfiction. Favorite military historian per war, favorite nature writer, favorite ancient writer of nonfiction, favorite biographer, favorite essayist, favorite humorist, and it's almost impossible from that kind of crowd to pick out just one, especially one of any genre. I do have a name. I do have a name for you. It's a name that I've mentioned on this channel before. I went back and forth on a lot of different people. Francis Parkman is so good. He's so fantastic. Or Bruce Catton, the greatest historian of the American Civil War. Or Pierre Burton, a Canadian historian who never puts a narrative foot wrong. Every one of his books is great. When I had to choose a favorite, one among all the hordes, I had to let all the factors play in, and that includes some that are personal. And so I picked Samuel Eliot Morison, an American historian, a Boston historian, who wrote a shelf full of books in his life. He was never not writing, except when he was sailing, and he often did both at the same time. And wrote a tremendous library of stuff that's all worth reading. I don't know what the future will do to his works. I have no idea. But he had a good run. He had a good run in the 20th century. I guess that's all that any historian can ask for. Parkman's lucky that that a lot of people remember him, even now. And I'd say the same rough percentage of people remember Samuel Eliot Morison. He wrote a great biography of Christopher Columbus. He wrote great essays and addresses and bits and pieces of historical and nautical lore. He wrote nautical biographies of people who are long since relegated to the footnotes of history. And also his crowning achievement. He wrote a multi-volume history of naval operations of the United States during the Second World War. The definitive account of such a thing, and the kind of account by someone who was actually there, that we yearn for in so many naval engagements throughout history and don't get. And it's all engaging. It's all terrifically engaging. And he actually took that multi-volume history and made it into one volume, The Two-Ocean War. For people who don't want to go into every single ship maneuver. But the thing, he would get my top spot, I think, and the thing that would get it for him wouldn't be the range of his history writing, and it wouldn't be his scholarship, although maritime history of his histories are fantastic. They are researched to a fare thee well. The thing that would get it for me would be his literary ability. He writes history as he used to put it. He writes history as though he expected people to read it. And that's actually true. Everything that he wrote is immensely readable in a flinty old world way. It doesn't. When we think now of something being immensely readable in the 21st century, we think, whether we realize it or not, of the author pandering to us in order to make it readable. Here I'm going to throw in, verbal emoticons. I'm going to throw in verbal emojis, and that ought to do it. I'm trying to win you over. Morison doesn't do that, but there's a different kind of readability. He is the other kind of readability. His prose is beautiful, and it rises to the challenge of the high drama of a lot of what he writes about. So I'm going to keep this video short just to recommend him to the skies. I love him. He's my favorite writer of nonfiction, if I had to pick just one. And I strongly urge you to go to your library and see if they have anything by him. Most likely, if they do, it will be the Columbus biography, Admiral of the Ocean Sea, but it maybe not. You never know. If you have an old library, especially if you're on the East Coast of the United States, they might have quite a bit. Or if not that, if you see him at a yard sale or a used bookstore, pick a book and give it a try. That would be the ancillary, of course, to naming my favorite nonfiction writer, is to recommend that writer. And we move on. I know this video is short, and I know I get a lot of crap when I make short videos. All the rules of BookTube are twisted on this channel. But our prod next time, tomorrow, is going to be another tricky one for me, not because of narrowing things down, but because of the psychology behind the prompt, which doesn't really apply to me. So you might want to batten down the hatches for a lecture or two. But in the meantime, I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.